Thank you, and welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name is Eric, and I'm joined by my co-host Kevin. Welcome back for our 47th episode this week, where we'll be recapping the Patriots' latest loss to the Minnesota Vikings on Thanksgiving and previewing this upcoming Thursday night's game versus the Buffalo Bills. As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up-to-the-minute updates and commentary on news of the day, as well as at our website at pats300levelpod.com. So welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Hope you had a better Thanksgiving than Kevin. And so, Kevin, what were your thoughts from this game? Luckily for me, I wasn't able to watch it live because I was in Korea, so I didn't have to go through those frustrating moments minute by minute. But watching the recap and everything, it was definitely one of the more frustrating losses of recent memory. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say frustrating is delicate for how this was. This is probably the most frustrating loss they've had in quite a while, just because they should have won this game in multiple different ways.
Yeah, and the game the most frustrating game besides this one that I can remember is the Eagles in like 2013 or so, when Nate Ebner did like the onside kick. I was at that game, and like for me, that's the most frustrating regular season game I've remember, and this was like up there with it.
Yeah, this is up there for any of the ones I can remember off the top of my head, at least. And just adding to the fact of being frustrated the whole day with losing our whole Thanksgiving food with the table collapsing. So not a great day for me. So yeah, it was not a good game. So a variety of different things. Number one, the offense came out looking really good. We had said last week where they are going to look better because the the Vikings defense actually isn't anything spectacular. It's middling defense at best. I think 19th is where they rank overall before this game. So we knew they were going to have some opportunities, and where they going to be able to strike, and they were, and that was really good. I think Patricia had some a really good what's it called? A script for the beginning plays. I thought they really dialed some things up really nicely. But when push came to shove at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, everything just went to hell, where they changed what they were doing. They, instead of trying to go down the field up the seams, they're going back to the throws in the flat and being really cautious. And this is not really how you play against this Vikings team. And I think the play calling really suffered, especially when it got towards the end of the game. The execution started suffering. The offensive line, we were doing a really good job in the beginning of the game. In the fourth quarter is when it kind of all went to hell. But that's also because they stopped running the ball too. They got away from the run. They weren't doing a great job running the ball, but you kind of saw it with the Vikings where they weren't doing a good job running the ball either, but running it consistently helped set up the play action and helped set up other plays where the Patriots at the end were just throwing the ball the whole time. You knew it was going to happen. So it kind of increased or decreased. It increased the predictability of what the Patriots offense was going to do. So between that and just the execution, we're going to get into all of this afterwards, but special teams where either one of those two plays cost them the game. So if you eliminate one of them, they would have won. And then the officiating too, where usually I don't like to complain about officiating. This is horrible. It's not just one or two calls that they missed. They missed about 5 or 6 big calls that had,
and they were pretty much all only on the Patriots too.
Mm-hmm. And then again, there was the face mask against Jonathan Jones, where there's a face mask directly against him too that wasn't called. So
I don't know if offensive players that have the ball can get a face mask.
I don't know if they can either, but just that's really annoyed me.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask in the group chat if that was a thing, but because I couldn't remember or look it up. But again, it just the amount that they had, it directly impacted the game. But I'm not going to blame the loss on them because the Patriots had multiple opportunities to win this, and they screwed them up. So they still deserve to lose the game. But if you could take away any of those sorts of things, the Hunter Henry catch, if they ruled out a touchdown, they would have only needed 3 points to tie the game up at the end, and they would have had to go for it on 4th and 16. They would have been able to maybe change a few things up. They would have gotten a field goal there, probably tied the game, and who knows what would have happened. The Vikings probably would have drove and scored, but who knows? It's a completely different game. So that was also very frustrating at this. About it just wasn't a consistently called game. The game.
No, definitely. I think one point that you touched on earlier was the running attack, which I actually want to talk about. Is They only ran the ball outside of the jet sweep to Kendrick Bourne, which lost 7 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They only ran the ball 12 times and threw the ball 39 times. Whereas the Vikings, they weren't getting much, but they ran it 25 times and threw it 37 times. So there was a little more more consistent of you weren't sure which way they're going to go. So you had to at least respect the run, especially considering how good Dalvin Cook is as a running back. And then Mondre, he actually didn't do a bad job running. He ran, I think, 5 yards per carry, and Harris was three and a half. But they were doing a decent job. It was just since they kept having to pass, it was just a little more predictable, especially the last couple drives. Yeah, I thought overall, kind of switching gears a little bit. There's nothing, I don't really want to add too much more to the officiating because that's what everyone's been talking about the past few days and pretty much cover everything. Talk about Mac. I actually thought this was Mac's best game, probably as an NFL player. I thought he did a really good job. There were some throws that were incomplete that still were really good throws, and it was either on the wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, that 4th and 16 call, especially where he just stopped running, where if he didn't, that should have been a catch and possibly even a touchdown. But I thought he looked really well in command. There were a couple of sacks towards the end of the game where you might want to blame it on him, but there was also Trent Brown, for instance, on that 3rd and something where he took a sack and got them out of field goal range. He went to cut block where it was a deep throw where offensive linemen are never supposed to cut block on pass that or a play that takes long to progress. So I thought overall he did a really good job, and his numbers supported, throwing career high 382 yards, 2 TDs. And this kind of shows what you potentially have a quarterback when the offensive line is able to hold up. He didn't get too much pressure throughout the game until the last few drives, and he was very efficient.
Yep. Yeah, there's not really too much to add there, but like I said, this really showed more of kind of what Mac could be rather than what we've seen this year. And when everyone saying that Mac isn't any good, he's a lot better than he's played so far. And this game, and even the Ravens game, have showed that he can and will be better. It's just surrounding him with the right things, having the right play calling, which is a big thing, because even you look at the red zone issues that they had, and I'm not sure if we had that in here or not, but a lot of it goes down to play calling and what they're kind of dialing up. Like you had mentioned that Bourne end around. What the hell are you running an end around for right over there? I don't think they've run one the entire season at all. And maybe they're trying to get someone caught off guard, but it's just, that's not really the place to do it. And I get you trying to change things up, but you got to do more in attack a lot differently. And I feel like when push comes to shove, that's where Patricia hasn't really shown much, and he still hasn't. And it's easy to dial up things in between the 30s because there's a lot more yardage to run different routes and run different concepts and everything like that. But when it gets really shrunk in, that's where you have to have, one, the playmakers to do it, and number two, you have to have the creative plays to make up for that lack of space. And that's just the things that I don't think we've really seen. I think it's a combination of both, where you have a lot of players that don't have breakaway speed, where they can't get off their blocks. And we even see it with Hunter Henry every single game. It drives me bananas, where every single time he just doesn't turn his head around. And there was a throw, not in even the Vikings game, it was the game beforehand, where everyone was complaining about Mac taking a sack. And they're like, oh, Hunter Henry's wide open in the flat. If you look at his head isn't around. So he would have never caught the ball. So that's like a big issue with them, where they're not ready for the ball on time. And then number two, a lot of them aren't fast enough. The only one that really is Thornton. And he actually saw his playing time get decreased over this game. And it just could, because some of the stuff we've seen with him, he's dropped a lot of balls. He hasn't run the right routes, it seems. Same thing with Bourne, where Bourne's a great playmaker, but he seems like kind of an idiot now. So, like, what's the difference between this year and last year? Is it the coaching that they spent more time with him last year, or is he got his priorities elsewhere right now? But, it's
I think one thing I just want to add on to the red zone or new red zone inefficiencies of inside the 30 is Yes, I think play calling has been a big issue, but I think another part of it is a lot of self-inflicted wounds once they get into the
Mm-hmm.
red zone, where it's penalties, false starts, holding penalties that aren't necessary, things like that, dropping passes, fumbles, where ordinarily pre 2018 you would never see this stuff from the Patriots, but it looks like the last 4 years or so it's just coming in more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it's something they can correct, because a lot of it is just self-inflicted wounds or that aren't necessarily uh, caused by other things. It's just you can do it. It's all mental.
Yeah, and just the amount of mistakes that you see with the penalties, just
Yeah.
penalties alone, the
Yep.
amount of holdings and legal block in the back. So really, any of those sort of false starts,
Yeah.
all of those different ones is insane this year. The amount that they have is just putting them in a position to not really succeed. Where
Yeah.
you're, instead of being second and short or second and medium or third and short, they're second and long and third and medium, third and long. So
Yeah. And then one thing David Andrews said a few weeks ago was, I've never called plays, but I can't imagine having to call plays where it's always third and long, because we back ourselves up because of penalties every single time.
Mm-hmm. Going on to the defense now, kind of switching gears. It was I don't really know how to describe it. They had some good stretches, they had some really bad stretches. And then also Jefferson, there's just some plays and you just say, wow, he's just that good, where you could do everything right and he'll still make the plays. Which also kind of brings me to a point where, is this something where the Patriots need to realize that they need to kind of invest more in a playmaker where they can kind of elevate the whole team? Where you look at some of the stuff that Justin Jefferson could do, and even what Diggs did in Buffalo, is that really the mold? And you look at even Chase in the Bengals. A lot of these teams have this dominant wide receiver, and it seems like this is the way, the Devontae Adams of the Raiders. Is this something that the Patriots really need to do? And maybe they think they have it in Thornton, but he's still kind of small. So do you need to go out and get this year or next year in the draft one of these high profile wide receivers, where I always was against doing something like this. This is based off what the Patriots scheme is. Where it's really predicated on the slot and everything like that. But just seeing the way the NFL is going lately and how much of an impact they can have, it's just something to think about too.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I don't think they necessarily need one, but I also think, say we go back to the 2020 draft and Patriots had the 21st pick instead of the 23rd pick. They probably would have picked Jalen Reagor just like the Eagles and passed on Justin Jefferson. So there's no guarantee that they'll pick the right guy, especially a wide receiver. But yeah, I thought the defense, it was tough to say. I thought the run defense was excellent. They held Cook to only 42 rushing yards on 22 carries, less than 2 yards per carry. But they made Kirk Cousins look like a Hall of Famer on primetime, where he's horrific in primetime. Cousins was 30 of 37, 299 yards, 3 TDs, and an interception. Jefferson had 9 catches, 140 yards and a touchdown. Thielen, 9 catches, 61 yards and touchdown. And then Hawkinson, who is one of the better tight ends in football, 5 catches, 43 yards and a TD. But he's someone that earlier in the year, when you played the Lions, I think you held catchless. Granted, the Lions were without some of their wide receivers, so you could more zone in on taking him out of the game. But defense was inconsistent. They were better in the second half. If you take away the kick return for a touchdown and you take away the 4th down running into the punter, they only gave up, I think, 3 points, 3 points in the second half. So they did a pretty good job, but granted, they did give up that 4th down and then they allowed a touchdown after that. So it's tough to say. There were some good moments, some bad. Pass rush wasn't able to do anything except for one Josh Uche sack, and this defense is predicated around getting to the quarterback. I thought Jonathan Jones, even though Jefferson had a big game, I thought Jonathan Jones actually played sneakily well. There were some things where he was in good coverage and it was just a great throw, great catch. And there were some other things where he was in zone and he was able to make a good play. So even though he's your number one cornerback and the number one receiver, went off for 140 yards, I still thought he had a sneakily good game, even though the numbers might not dictate that.
Yeah, the only thing I challenge on that is just the two face masks are kind
Yeah,
of
that's
inexcusable.
fair.
Where those weren't just to make a tackle where you
Yeah.
needed to it just slip. They're just unexcusable penalties at those
No,
points.
that's fair, and I'll agree with that.
Anything else on the defense, or you want to head to special teams?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, the special teams I already kind of touched upon. Where this team again, they spend so much money and resources on special teams in order to have the special teams kind of screw them in this game. They had the kick return for a touchdown where you knew this was a good kick returner. And part of the reason why too is that Nick Folk was doing kickoffs where if Jake Bailey was there, they probably would be kicking it out the whole time.
But I think Mike Reese said that out of the 7 kickoffs, only 2 made it into the end zone.
Yeah. So we know that Folk doesn't have that big of a leg to do it. But then the other thing though too was just the punt block where that's you need to be making proper technique and proper form. You just can't go running into them. It's just that simple. And if that didn't happen, the touchdown never would have happened. It'd be a completely different ball game. And the Patriots probably would have won it. So one of those two different scenarios. So especially the punt return, I would say is even bigger because the kick return, there's still a chance that they after they return it, they drive and get a touchdown.
Yeah.
The punt return, you were getting the ball back.
Yeah.
So
and then part of I think a lot of it goes on Pierre Strong because he has to know you can't make contact. You have to make a good route to the punter and block the ball, but also use good technique. But I also blame a lot of it also on the coaching staff where it's 4th and 3. If it's 4th and 6 or longer, then you have a case where even if it is running into the punter, they're still going to punt the ball away unless they go for it inside their own 40. But if it's 4th and 5 or less, there is a chance that they could run into the punter or the punter could pull a soccer player, flop, and then you get the penalty even without touching them. And then also using Pierre Strong in that situation. A few weeks ago when they blocked the punt, Jonathan Jones blocked the punt. It was 4th and 9. And then you're using a very experienced player in Jonathan Jones, whereas they use Pierre Strong in this instance, who's a rookie. So I don't know if it's just that inexperience, and if it was using someone else, then okay. If it's Jonathan Jones using that, I won't blame the coaching as much, but having a rookie in that situation who might not have as much experience, that's where I blame a lot of it on the coaching as well.
Yep, that's a big part too. I was going to mention too that I forgot to mention. So great point there. Anything else?
Just another thing on special teams is the inconsistent punting, where we've seen that all year with Jake Bailey, but also Pilardi. He had some really good punts, but he also had 2 punts under 35 yards in a dome without wind. So it's granted, none of them were as bad as Jake Bailey's last punt before he got hurt. But if you're in a dome, you have to at least consistently do 40-something yard punts at a minimum, or if it's within like the 50, have high hang time. And even if it's not as much yards, have it not be returnable. But I don't know. Special teams, once again, starting to kick them in the ass like last year. But at least the good thing was Nick Folk was back to his old self.
Yep. Yeah. So I think the win was just kind of a aberration. We'll get to this a little bit later, but looks like it's going to be some gusty winds on Thursday night. So
surprise.
Same conditions as last Jets game. Offensive line, they looked a lot better to start the game. Again, though, when push came to shove at the end, that's when they really started to kind of shit the bed.
But it's also tough though when the defense knows you're going to be passing, they can all out rush as well. And I thought Mondre, even though he's not offensive line, I thought he was excellent in pass protection as always. He's just everywhere.
He's doing really good. And one thing I don't know if I told you or not, or if you heard on the broadcast or not, because I knew you were kind of skimming through it. But Bill, when he was giving his,
he kind of refuted that report today.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said, "I don't remember that. I don't remember it like that."
Oh, well, he just may not be trying to make it sound. He probably said it, and probably didn't want being out there where he probably didn't want Stevenson to hear that. But Lawrence Taylor is probably his favorite player.
So in case you weren't on the broadcast and you didn't hear, Belichick compared Mondre's development to Tom Brady and Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And Lawrence Taylor, I would say Bill loves even more than Tom.
Yeah.
So to be in the conversation of Tom and Lawrence Taylor, I know he regards both of them as the greatest at both of their sides of the of the ball. So Tom the greatest on offense and Lawrence on defense. He probably thinks Lawrence is probably better than Tom, but to be compared in that same sentence, he loves him, and every week he's talking about the progress he's made. I love Stevenson too. He's incredible. He's big, but he's fast and he's quick, and he can, even when he gets the ball, if he gets touched, he's breaking the tackle.
Then his pass protection too, which is underrated, but that's one of his best parts this year, which is surprising.
Yeah, and that just got me wondering. I was gonna make this one of the questions, and I forgot to add it, but I'll just ask it now. Do you think he gets an early contract extension because of the?
I've actually been wondering that this week, and I think he might.
He can't get it this year because it would have to be after next season.
Yeah, where it would be after his third year, and he only has 1 year left. I could see the Patriots giving him maybe a 3-year contract, so in total it's 6 years. But it's going to become one of the questions we ask later. But he's being used so much where I wonder if I don't think they're doing this intentionally, but in the back of their minds, they know
they could just run the hell out of him until waste him
in 4 years. He's done.
Yeah, so that could be it. Yeah. All right, moving on because it's taking a while. Penalties, miscues, we already talked about that. We're going 3 up, 3 down. We have very similar ones, I think. So if you want to give your first one.
First one is Mac. Best game overall, in my opinion, in his career. He was 28 of 39, 382 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. Really good command of the pocket. He did get a couple sacks towards the end, but I don't know if I really blame them on him because people were saying throw it away, but if you actually look at it, there wasn't really many places he could have thrown it away. So I thought he did a really good job.
Yep, I had Mac as my first up as well. I thought he did a really good job. One of the best games he's had, even though it was a loss. Yeah. And we're kind of seeing a lot with him. With a lot of his good games are losses. There's the Cowboys game. There's a few other ones last year. Bucks. But yeah, a really good game. I think his kind of biggest miscue was just the that sack, or I think it was kind of as a net negative or maybe a positive 1 yard where he ended up sliding before the half, where he should have thrown that one out of bounds.
But if you look at it, he was still in the pocket and there was no one open. And if he tried throwing it short of their feet, he was actually covered where he couldn't have really thrown it away too much. If he used more situational awareness and if he knew he wasn't going to be able to throw it, try and find someone and throw it at their feet or get out of the pocket to throw it out of bounds. But
yeah. All right. But then the other thing though too, that throw he made to Aguilar was a dime that just pissed me off that he stopped running because that was going to be a touchdown if that happened, or at least
would have been tied
right in the 5 yard line. Next one,
Mondre, once again, 7 rushes, 36 yards, over 5 yards to carry, 9 catches, 76 yards, and then just elite pass protection out of the running back spot.
Yep, I had Mondre as well. Nothing out there. Who's your last one?
Offensive line, especially considering how bad they've been in the past few weeks. For them to hold up and to be as good as they were for almost the entirety of the game was impressive.
Yep. My last one was Lawrence Guy. I thought he was a stout in the run defense. I think this is probably one of his best games he's had in 2 years. Because I know last year he started to fall off a little bit. I thought him and even Godchow and even Aquale did really good in the run game.
I also had Folk as an honorable mention just because after missing 2 kicks a few weeks ago, sometimes for kickers that could get in their heads, but once again, 4 for 4 field goals and then made all his extra points. So it's the Nick Folk of Nick Folks.
Yep. 3 down.
Looks like we have the same, so I'll just go with mine first. Pierre Strong. For someone that doesn't play much, you have to know situational football, and you have to, when you're put in the game, you cannot make mistakes. And he made a mistake that ended up being crucial. Yep.
Probably the biggest mistake that they made the entire game. Yep. So I went with him as well. Next one, not Jason McCourty, Devin McCourty. Yep. And you could tell where he's starting to slow down. He's still fast, but not as fast as he used to be. And there's just a few plays where you can kind of tell, and maybe part of it was also Justin Jefferson being as good as he is, where it just kind of really brought that out. But there were situations where McCourty of a few years ago probably would have made the play.
Yeah. And there were a few times in this game, and then also we've seen this even dating back to last year too, where we mentioned it on our podcast a few times, where he just takes the wrong route to the receiver. Where I don't know if it's that shouldn't, as you get older, that shouldn't be the case unless you think you're faster than you are and your speed is declining. Where it seems just more mental mistakes where you take the wrong route, and then because of that, you let the guy get by you. And he did that a few times this week, and he's done that a couple times throughout the year and did it last year too. So just something to keep an eye on. But he has been playing 100% of the snaps almost every game the last 10 plus years. So something to keep an eye on as his legs are getting up there.
Yep. Last one, special teams, situational football. We kind of harped on this the whole time, but you think there's much to add there. All right. Trivia. You got 2 questions for me this week.
I do.
Interested to see what these are.
So first question, as of right now, Ramondre Stevenson is leading the Patriots in receptions with 50. Jacoby Myers has 49. Has a Patriots running back ever led the team in receptions?
Yes.
Who and when?
Kevin Falk.
No.
James White.
Yes. When?
I don't think. I'll just say this because the receivers weren't good. 2020.
No. 2018. He led the team with 87 catches.
That's interesting.
Second question. Devin McCourty has played 199 games Thursday night, assuming something unexpected doesn't happen. Assuming he plays, he'll have played his 200th game. How many Patriots players have played 200 games with the Patriots, and who are they?
Tom Brady.
Yes.
Let's see. How much old is McCourty? 36. Tom Brady. Julian Edelman?
No.
I'm gonna say because he was like 35-ish when he left. Oof, that's tough. How many are there?
There's 5 total that have currently played 200 games. McCourty will be the 6th.
Oh God. Okay. So Tom Brady.
Yes.
Oh, this is tough. Oh, Matthew Slater.
Yes, Slater's number 2 after Brady.
How many did Slater play in?
Slater played in 217.
17. Okay. And how many offense? How many defense?
1 offense, 1 defense.
Oh, geez. There's gonna be an offensive lineman probably.
Yes.
And then a linebacker?
No.
Safety?
No.
Corner?
No.
Defensive lineman?
Yes.
Defensive lineman?
Yes.
Oh, God. I'm gonna give myself 10 seconds in order to answer, and then I'll give up. Matt Light? I don't think that's it. Who was the offensive lineman?
Bruce Armstrong.
Oh, I didn't think old. And then who's the defensive lineman?
Julius Adams.
I don't even know who that is.
And then rounding up number 5.
Oh, what was the other position?
Special teams.
Special teams. Oh, Gil Santos?
No. Gil Santos never played.
No? Oh, what was the guy's name?
Gino Cappelletti.
Gino Cappelletti?
No. Steven Gostkowski.
I was going to name him. I didn't think he was old enough. I'm surprised.
And part of the reason why McCourty has made it up to 200 is in his 13-year career, he's missed 5 games. Started all 199.
All right. That's interesting. Yeah. I was going to name Gostkowski too. I just didn't think he played enough.
Gostkowski played 204, by the way.
All right. News around the NFL. Anything of note that you wanted to mention? Or you want to hit
it was bad news for the Patriots this past weekend with all the teams you wanted to lose. One with the Bills beating the Lions barely, the Dolphins destroying the Texans, Jets beating the Bears, the Cardinals crapping the bed, and the Chargers beating them barely at the end. Bengals winning, barely beating the Titans. So all bad news round for the Patriots.
Yep. But we got still plenty of time left, so
Yep.
not too bad yet. But it'll be something we have to keep an eye on. All right.
Yep.
5 questions. I think we actually have 6 this week. So first one, where do you think Bill O'Brien's going to be next year? It doesn't have to be a specific place if it's college or whatnot. And then if it is wherever he is, what is his title going to be?
He's going to be either a college head coach, but I feel like that's not going to be the case since it's still late or it's getting late in the season and he's still just Bama's offensive coordinator and he hasn't done great this year, or he's going to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. Where I don't know. I think it's going to depend on what head coaching positions become available and who needs offensive coordinators. But I don't see him being with the Patriots. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't have a specific position because I don't know what's going to be available and what the opportunities are.
Yeah, this was interesting. I thought when I thought of this because it was like really interesting because everyone wants him back. I don't think he'll be back. I think if he is back in the NFL, it won't be as a head coach at first. He'll be an offensive coordinator, like you said. I think a good spot for him would be with the Raiders. That way, you give Josh more of a chance to kind of coach the whole team rather than be like an offensive coordinator. And I think that would be really good for him. But
I don't know if that would happen though, because I think they have Mike Lombardi's son, in high regard. I know they haven't done a good job this year, so unless he's starting to feel the pressure and feels like he has to, But I feel like he's going to give it another year with that. But who knows? Ownership might dictate that, so possibly.
Yeah, if they wanted to fire Josh but didn't have the money to, they probably would have more of the money to fire an offensive coordinator than what Josh is making. So
I also don't know how much I believe that report of they don't have money because it came from Bill Plaschke, who's more of a writer and not an actual reporter, which I know he's sort of a reporter, but it's more like commentary stuff. So I don't know if I fully believe that, but it could be the case.
Yeah. And then I think more likely he'll probably somehow, he was rumored for the Georgia Tech job I saw the other day. But he needs either a higher profile because when push comes to shove, I think he wants to be an NFL head coach again. So he can't just be a middling college head coach. So Bama gives him high profile for being an offensive coordinator there. They didn't do that great this year, but either he tries to stick it out maybe one more year at Bama if nothing happens, or he's going to try and get in the NFL as soon as possible. So it'll be interesting. I'll say NFL offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Next one, name your top quarterbacks and stop when you get to Kirk Cousins. So in other words, how many quarterbacks would you rank ahead of him based on what we saw?
Rank or rather have?
Well, just rank.
Okay.
Either or.
Because I was going to say, like, actually, Mac, I don't put Mac ahead of Kirk Cousins this year, but I'd still rather have Mac than Kirk Cousins.
I would say rank then. So, like, how their performances. Like, I have in my list Lamar Jackson. I would never want Lamar Jackson.
Okay, that's fair. So I'd go Mahomes, Allen, Brady, Herbert, Burrow, in no order. Hurts, Prescott. I'd still go Rodgers, Lamar. Jimmy, assuming he doesn't get hurt. And I'll stop there.
All right, that's very similar. I had the exact same. I include Geno Smith too. So I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people have him. So 12 for Kirk Cousins. So, but where you kind of think he would be. So he played a lot better than what he actually is.
Yeah.
How long of a leash is Russell Wilson going to be given with the Denver Broncos? Something that me and you and a couple of our friends were talking about, just based on looking at his viability of cutting or trading him in case they wanted to. How long do you think they're going to give him, assuming he stays the course of being bad?
I think the rest of this year and at least next year, probably one more, just because they gave up so much draft capital that they can't afford to just cut bait with him this quick. Because right now they're projected to come and have the 2nd overall pick, but they traded that to Seattle, and they traded the following year's 1st round pick to Seattle, and I believe they also traded both 2nd round picks too. So they're pretty much stuck with him because of that draft capital that they gave up.
Yep. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to fire Hackett. and then try it with a new head coach. See if the new head coach can get anything out of him, and give him maybe a year to see if he can get anything out of him. If they can't after next year, that's when they would have to cut bait with him.
Cut bait with him. Get a random quarterback to tank for you. So you cut him so you can stack up the dead cap and then draft number 1 overall pick the following year and have cap space after that.
Yep. Now kind of going into Wilsons that aren't doing well. When's the next time Zach Wilson's going to start for the Jets, barring any injury to White?
I can see 2 things. I say the easy one is opening day 2023, just because they invested a first round pick in him. He has shown he has the talent. He was 5-2 when they benched him with his only losses against the Patriots. But I could see either 2023 where they bring in like a Jacoby Brissett to compete with him, but he gets the gig to start. Or if Mike White shits the bed and then they don't trust Joe Flacco, I could see them turning the reins back over to him before the season is over to try and like right the ship.
Yep. Yeah, I would say if Mike White goes on a losing streak of probably 3 or more games, that's when they would switch over to Zach.
The thing though is 3 or more games, they might be out of playoff contention by then. So I think it would be over the next few games how he plays. If he plays bad or versus if he plays like he did this past weekend, but they lose. So I think it's tough to say, but
I would say if I had to bet though, I would say it's probably opening day of 2023.
Yeah, same.
I don't think he's playing again this year.
I agree.
Thanksgiving game theme question based off of Thanksgiving this past weekend. Didn't get to ask it on our last podcast. What is the side dish that you have to have on Thanksgiving? Your favorite one, and then what is your one you could do without that you could
cranberry sauce?
So mine would be I do love stuffing. So this one was really really hard of a question for me. Mine though is broccoli casserole, where it's not even like a real casserole, but it's
that's disgusting.
It's broccoli with Velveeta cheese all over it and Ritz crackers with butter. And you have the butter and Ritz crackers and the Velveeta all mixed together. You're basically eating that, and the broccoli's there just so you're eating a vegetable. But it's
you wonder why your stomach is the way it is.
So that's probably my favorite thing. And then the thing I could do without would be corn. I don't like corn.
I like corn.
I used to like it. Because the corn you're having on Thanksgiving is not on the cob or anything like that. It's frozen corn.
Or you could make it on the cob, but
you could, but it's harder to find corn out here.
That's true. Not out here in sunny San Diego.
Last question I had: are the Patriots using Mondre too much?
I think they are, but I don't think they have any alternatives considering Harris is hurt and they could bring up JJ for a little bit. But if you need to run, he can give you some in spurts, but they don't have a good number 2 back behind him to either catch out of the backfield, to pass protect, or to really run other than a few carries here or there. They invested 2 draft picks in running backs and Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong, but they're not where they need to be this year. But granted, a lot of Patriots rookie running backs aren't like that. Mondre is more, last year was the anomaly compared to the usual. So I think they have to use Mondre as much as they're using him, but I'm worried that as the season gets on, he could either get hurt or just start breaking down similar to Judon last year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely. I think they are using him too much, but they don't really have a choice right now. Harris gets hurt like every game. And we've seen that the last few years with him. Where it's usually a hamstring or a leg injury. And then they don't really have anything else. They don't trust the 2 running backs they drafted. And they haven't really shown anything to show why they'd be trusted. And then JJ Taylor is way too small. So they don't really
Mondre's on pace for 80 something catches this year and also running for 1,100 yards. So just touch after touch. I'm just worried he's going to get hurt, but they have to do what they have to do.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the Bills. This is going to be a pretty interesting game. It's a pretty much a must win. We'll get into some a little bit, but it means a lot more after that loss to the Vikings, where if you won against the Vikings, you had a lot more wiggle room in the standings and getting to 10 wins. This is going to be a big challenge, but I don't think it's a complete unlikelihood that they would win this game. So there is a chance that they could win this.
Yeah.
3 of the last 4 meetings, though, the Patriots have only won 1 game, and some could say is if there wasn't a hurricane force wind happening in that game, they may have lost that game too.
Yeah.
And they haven't really looked good against them lately. Ever
Yeah.
since that quote of Bill coming out saying that he didn't think Josh Allen was any good, they've gotten kind of smoked by them, except for that
Yeah.
one game. Not good. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I think a lot of Patriots fans, when thinking about the Bills, get PTSD just from those 3 of the last 4 games have just been blowouts. But what a lot of people don't realize, yes, the 2020 game was an awful loss, but that was an awful team for Patriots team. Last year, they lost at home in December, and then they got blown out in the playoff game. But they were also missing some key starters on defense, which is part of the reason why they weren't able to get off the field. So I think a lot of people forget that, where you were going with practice squad players as starting cornerbacks in the playoff game, and you're wondering why you can't stop Josh Allen. So I think that is something to do with it, but they do worry me because they are a very good team. But the good thing for the Patriots, at least, is the Bills started the year great at 6-1, and their only loss was at Miami, where on their sideline was like 120 degrees. But the last 4 games, they lost to the Jets 20-17. They lost to the Vikings 30-33. They barely beat the Browns 31-23, and they barely beat the Lions at the end of regulation 28-25. So they haven't been playing well lately. Josh Allen did hurt his elbow at the end of the Jets game, which might be part of the reason why he hasn't been looking himself the last few games. So this team is definitely beatable, as we've seen the Vikings and the Jets beat them, and then the Lions almost beat them. But you're going to have to give your best game because they are coming in with one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then Josh Allen's one of the most explosive players in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the thing that we're better off getting them now at the beginning of the season, like you said, just because they do look like they are beatable, and especially with losing why am I
Von Miller?
Von Miller on the defensive line. Their pass rush didn't look as good as it did when he was in the game. So once he left the game, there was a clear kind of difference in the pass rush. So that was going to help, especially because the Patriots offensive line is not really good at all. David Andrews is going to be back, which is going to help. But that right tackle position scares the death out of me. So it will be kind of interesting to see what happens and what they kind of do there. But Josh Allen is kind of the biggest one you got to worry about, where he can do really everything. He could throw, he could run. And the running eventually is going to get him in trouble. And I keep saying this every single time about him. And I don't want to see him have it. Well, this is horrible for me to say. You want to see everyone have a long career. For the Patriots fan in me, the less he lasts, the better. But as like an NFL fan and a fan of a sport in general, he should be putting his body through as much as he does. He needs to stop, because what he's doing is he's getting an extra yard for trying to take on a block or anything like that. It's not worth it. And he eventually he's gonna get hurt. And he got hurt on the elbow. It wasn't really in the same situation, but he's putting a lot on his elbow right now with that. And you look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton's out of the league he was 31, 32. And he needs to, in his best interest, he needs to slide at least. And he doesn't do that. So that's the one thing with Josh, I'm going to say. Last year, I refused to put him in the elite category after that Kansas City game, even though most people were doing it, because I said I needed to see him in a playoff game actually win the game. The hell with that. I'm going to say he's an elite quarterback. So you have to take care of him, and you have to take care of Diggs is kind of the biggest one. Him and Gabriel Davis are the 2 big threats that you have. And even McKenzie too. Dustin Knox, you kind of took care of last year.
And the Patriots have shown that traditionally they're good at covering tight ends. Hawkinson last week was kind of the exception, but
this is going to be another big scenario where you have really you got 3 wide receivers you really have to be worried about. And this last week, because Diggs and Jefferson, you could say that they're almost the same type of wide receiver. I think Jefferson's actually a little bit better. But you have that, and then Gabriel Davis is kind of the Thielen to that. So are you able to take care of both Diggs and Gabriel and McKenzie and Dawson Knox
Yeah.
and Singletary? It's going to be a big challenge, and I'm hoping that they're up to it. But it'll be a really big challenge for this defense.
No, I agree completely. And I think Allen he's one of probably the biggest playmaker in the NFL, just because he can throw and he can run. Whereas you played Lamar Jackson before and he pretty much beat you with his legs. Whereas Josh Allen, he's leading the Bills in rushing yards with 560, but also is passing for almost 300 yards a game.
Mhm.
And when the Patriots won last year, 14-10 in the wind game, Josh Allen didn't really run the ball. And that was something that I was surprised about. And then we saw the next two times they played him, on 3rd and long, you'd have everything perfectly defended, and then he would run for a first down, which is a killer on defense.
Mhm.
That's something they're really going to have to watch out for this year, especially seeing that Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson, the two running quarterbacks that you play this year, have beaten you pretty well. So they're going to have to find a way to take Diggs out of the game, try and limit Gabriel, and then rush the quarterback, get pressure on him, but not break containment, not let him run for first downs. I wouldn't be surprised if they put a spy on him, like Mac Wilson or Jabril Peppers, so that the thing with that is you are taking one less defender off the field, either from rushing or in coverage, but it doesn't let him run for first down, which is what he's done a lot of this year. One good thing for the Patriots, though, is this Bills offense does turn the ball over a lot. They've turned the ball over, I believe, 19 times. Allen leads the league in interceptions with 11. So you know that he's going to make some throws that you're going to have a chance to turn the ball over and possibly get some momentum, get some free points out of. So that's something where you have to take care of your opportunities when given to you. You can't drop any interceptions or easy interceptions like we've seen a couple times in the past. So that's what the defense is going to have to do. It's definitely a tall order where this is one of the best offenses they're going to be facing this year. But the defense does have the speed, which they didn't last year. And then also part of me thinks this is more optimistic than what I've actually seen with my own eyes the past few years. But the Bills offense has shredded this Patriots defense 3 of the 4 last times they played them, all in prime time. And I feel like, or the regular season one last year wasn't, but it was the 4:00 game, I believe, and one of the only games on. And I feel like Bill Belichick spent all offseason finding a way to scheme this Bills offense, and he'll find a way to at least limit it. So that's my only saving hope. But what we've seen from Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson doesn't give me any proof it's actually going to happen. But there's a little part of me that thinks Bill's going to show some magic on Thursday.
Oh, the other thing to start at that is that you could have the greatest scheme in the world if your players can execute. It's not.
That's fair. Very, very fair.
And we saw that even on that crossing route where the Patriots gave up the touchdown to, I think it was the Thielen, where it was just 2 routes, and I think it was Jack Jones never got off. It was supposed to be Jack Jones was supposed to be giving up his guy and going with Thielen, and
it was Peppers.
Or Pepper. Something happened where someone didn't give up the guy, and then that's why Jalen Mills looks like he got burnt. But he was supposed to be having help, and he had nothing.
It was Peppers.
Yeah, so you could have the greatest scheme. You just need to have the player execute. So
and also just switching to the Patriots' offensive side of the ball, they're going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL the last few years, and ever since McDermott has taken over as the Bills head coach in 2017, I believe, even when Brady was here, this team has had trouble with the Bills defense. So McDermott knows how to stop the Patriots offense, but also they're 5th in points allowed with only 18 points allowed. They're one of the best red zone defenses, where the Patriots are the 2nd worst red zone offense. So they've given up a lot of passing yards, 220, but a lot of times they're leading, so teams have to throw the ball. So that's kind of a miscued stat, but they're also 3rd in the league in interceptions with 1.2 per game. So they're going to be getting some takeaways. So you have to protect the ball. You can't be throwing some errant passes because they'll capitalize of it. Good thing with Mac is the last 3 games, he hasn't had any interception worthy throws. And as long as offensive line holds up a little bit, hopefully that stays. But they do have some playmakers where we saw last year in the playoffs where was it Poyer had that insane interception. It was actually a pretty good throw by Mac, but just a great play. So this defense is good. They're legit. They're one of the best defenses in football, and the Patriots offense is going to have their hands worth trying to move up the field and score some points, especially with the play calling.
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely. Anything else you want to add about the defense, or do I hit to the predictions?
Not really. Just I think the keys to the game is don't let Josh Allen scramble for first downs, especially on third down and third and long. Try and limit Stephon Diggs. He's going to get his, but you can't let him break, and you can't let the other guys beat you. And then on offense, just don't have any false starts or unforced errors, and then hold on to the football, and hopefully you guys do enough to win the game.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I'd say take away Josh Allen at first. Him and Diggs, it would be the top two things.
Yeah.
And then try and let the other players beat you where Gabriel Davis can, but it's a lesser of two evils for that. So
yep.
All right. So Patriots going into this, they were the Bills were favored by 5.5 going in, but now it's down to 5, according to Barstool Sportsbook. Over under is set at 43.5. Part of me is actually kind of thinking about changing my score just now that I'm thinking about the wind. It's supposed to be windy on Thursday night. And we saw it happen with the Jets game. We saw it happen with the Bills game. I think they're still going to throw more. I'm going to subtract 7 points from each. So I don't think I can do this in my head.
While you mentally prepare yourself, I'll give my prediction.
All right.
Since I know you're not the best at mental math.
I'm using a calculator.
All right. It's tough because mine isn't based on what my eyes have seen this year. It's more a little what I've seen, the better offense this past week, along with the speed on defense and just a gut feeling. And also that since this is kind of a must-win game, I have the Patriots squeaking out a win, 24-22. I think they hold the Bills to 3 field goals, and then at the end of the game, the Patriots are up by 7 points, or they're up by 8 points. Bills get a touchdown and then go for the 2-point conversion, but don't convert. Hence 24-22. I don't see the Patriots scoring 5 times on the Bills, but I could see the Bills scoring 5 times on the Patriots, just limiting to field goals.
That's interesting. I've got 2 predictions now based on how the wind is.
Okay.
So one would be if the wind is gusting greater than 25 miles an hour.
Let's say a really strong caveat.
So if the wind is over 20, so let's say it's 30 or higher for the wind.
Okay.
The score is going to be 24-20 with the Bills winning. If the wind is less than that, it's going to be 31-27 Bills.
Okay.
I think it's just going to take away a touchdown from. I think it's a touchdown equalizer.
So Bills win by 4 either way. Just
Bills win by 4 either way. Wind's going to
produce a touchdown.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
No. Hopefully we're in a better mood when we see you guys next, where the Patriots squeak out a win and advance to 7-5. But if not, gonna have their work cut out for them the last 6 games. So should be interesting either way. Should be a good, fun Thursday night. Glad that I'm on the West Coast and game starts at 5:20 for me, and I can be done by 8:20 and have time before going to bed and not be frustrated.
Yeah, that was the other tough part where that's one of those games you just can't sleep afterwards. So I'm hoping that's not gonna be the case here. I'll have a little bit of time to decompress while I'm driving home, but
that's true.
So I'll run my car off the road because of that. But anyway, glad to talk to you guys again with Eric. He's back in America.
Yep.
And talk to you guys next week. Hopefully a Patriots win. Subscribe, rate, and review on all of your podcast platforms and YouTube as well. Check out us on Instagram and Twitter at Pat300LevelPod. And we will start blogging at some point a little bit more. Just things have gotten in the way with everything. So you can check us out on Pats300levelpod.com once we get that going a little bit more. So thank you guys for joining, and I look forward to talking to you next week.